Hi, welcome to Star Power Alchemy YouTube. My name is Alejandra Sofia, bringing to you the astrological news from the macrocosm to the microcosm of you to help you navigate your reality and the times we're living in. I'm tuning into the week ahead and the key energies of this week, June 24th until July 1st, 2019. This is the final quarter of the moon before we reach the next new moon, which is on July 2nd. And so there are 4 quarters in each new moon cycle, in each lunar wave cycle that starts off at the seed point of the new moon. So we started off on June 3rd through the seeded point of the new moon in Gemini, and then we had the full moon on June 17th, and now we're heading into the 4th quarter. We begin the 4th quarter officially tomorrow on June 25th, but we're in that energy. And so tuning into this 4th quarter energy leading into and leading out of, right? We're leading into the solar eclipse, the total solar eclipse on July 2nd, 2019. So the field's really resonating and preparing because we're a past, present, future beings. We're already sensing the future, and then we're wrapping up right now. Because the 4th quarter moon, from half moon waxing, half moon waning until the new moon, is a letting go phase. But it's through an expansion, an expanded field of. There's a real expansion in order to let go into the next level, because that's essentially what cycles are made up of: beginning points, culminations, and then letting go into the next cycle. So and an advancement that underlies the field and the potential for progress, and to progress on an ideal level, something that is good, something that is healthy and functional for the whole system. So in that ideology and within that framework that I just gave you, this unfoldment towards something, this field of unfoldment that we're inside of through the 4th quarter moon, of releasing and letting go, especially through the dark moon on the last few days on this weekend. So we're traveling from this week of June 24th until July 1st. We're traveling from the moon, and we've got the moon in Pisces. We're starting off the week in moon in Pisces, and then we're completing the week through the moon in Gemini before the moon in Cancer and new moon energy of July 2nd. So we're starting off the week feelings. We're in a real feeling environment, intuitive, emotional potentially, but it's meant for just really feeling, ending, letting go, moving on. And what are we moving on from? So because tomorrow on June 25th, because moon in Pisces emphasizes a yearning to heal, and it's because it's trining all the Cancer, it's trining Mercury in Cancer and Mars in Cancer, who are both at the very end of those sign journeys, of that sign journey of Cancer, which is a water sign, and in particular, there could be an understanding of your own emotional mechanics, understanding something that happened in childhood, understanding how you work a little bit better. And that's what I feel with Mercury and Mars, and what they did with the North Node in this last moon cycle in the last couple of weeks. When they crossed over the North Node, there was a potential for a lot of insight and understanding about, and expression as well, things that needed to be expressed to yourself and to other people, emotional understandings, psychological understandings, that because Cancer has a particular emphasis on mechanics, like the emotional mechanics, how something works, so there's an understanding, there's a deep wisdom in the sign of Cancer. And so this moon in Pisces, because it's such a watery sign, and I say that in comparison to Cancer, which is a water earth sign. And so with Pisces, it's a very watery sign. It's water and water, whereas Cancer is water and earth. And this is through 2 systems of astrology that I tune into. I use traditional astrology methods of interpretation. I use the Star Genesis Atlantean Star Wisdom method of interpretation that I'm trained in as well. So so that gives us a real a priming field of feeling, of understanding, maybe psychological breakthroughs, new ahas that could help you bring yourself home to yourself. And because we're really very strongly in a pulsing field Cancer, the child, the innocence, before everything went wrong, before everything became dysfunctional. And so because that primal innocence always maintains itself, it's always in there, it's always threading through, no matter how complex and convoluted things have gotten and how dysfunctional things have gotten, that function and that fluidity is deep inside of there. And so, and that is what this new moon total eclipse is keying on. It's keying on getting into those layers simply by coming into innocence and returning to that, landing in that purity that Cancer is. So as we're feeling this future that's coming in, because we're unpacking some really big things right now about how the universe works, and because of these emotional signs, there's this real, and we've got a Jupiter and Neptune square Pisces year, there's a real yearning for wanting to have, you know, this societal urge, and you can hear it and see it in the collective of you know, wanting to make having a beautiful experience, wanting to create more happiness. A lot of information out there about how to, you know, rewire your brain, and so going into those deep psychological dives to help you unpack yourself and release yourself from self, you know, demonizing your, you know, yourself and others. That's and clearing the separation barriers. So that's I'm looking at things from a framework of healing from separation paradigms, emotional separation paradigms that lodged into us unconsciously, releasing those barriers that help us move beyond our barriers of our mind and tap into potential through tapping into personal, you know, visionary faculties, your dreams, your imagination. You need your emotionality. You need your inner intuitive wisdom to tap into the dreams that you're having, that tap you into the skills that you're developing, that tap you into the gifts that you have, and also tap you into your challenge, because we're all gifted in areas and where things come naturally to us, and we're all challenged in areas where things come harder for us. And so we all have these polaric edges. And so in this polaric edge right now of this final week of this fourth quarter new moon Gemini heading into the total solar eclipse, we're with the moon in Pisces on June 24th, the very moony feeling, kind of almost getting ready, because then there's a getting ready feeling, because the final quarter is activated by moon in Aries and the sun in Cancer, because they square off, and that's what starts off, they square off at the half moon waning, and so they're squaring off in cardinal signs. And the moon in Aries is very self-oriented, self-will, willpower, and because the sun is ruled by the sign because the Cancer sun is ruled by the moon, there's a really strong emphasis on feeling and how you're feeling, and bringing willpower to yourself. And so, activating your willpower and activating what's inside of you and bringing it out forward, because there is a thrusting energy in the cardinal signs. And so we've got a cardinal fire thrust, and we've got a cardinal water thrust. And one of the things that when Cancer becomes imbalanced, it tends to give its power away to others, and moves into over caretaking. That can be one of its tendencies, and it's emotional isolation. There's a lot of variations to this, so if any of these things resonate for you, Cancer emotionally isolates. Cancer has, wounded Cancer has, or traumatized Cancer has a lot of walls and a big shell because of overlays of overprotection, because of survival instincts and mechanisms being engaged in early childhood. And culture certainly has had an extreme amount of deeply embedded, institutionalized, emotional, I believe even emotional abuse in our culture that we're coming out of. And for those of us who are willing to heal and look closely into the invisible, open up the invisible places and spaces, and so that means excavating yourself. This makes it this week a really prime territory for as your self-dedication. So rededicating yourself to something, coming back up, because Moon in Aries likes to rise up. That's keying off. I'll say that for this whole, resonating through this whole week and getting ready for the cardinal Cancer total eclipse, and the Moon in Aries initiating through this fourth quarter moon is really giving us a field of just rededicate yourself to what you want, rededicate yourself to your dreams, rededicate yourself to yourself and what you believe in, and rededicate yourself to self-belief and your willpower. So that's really important. And with the moon and half moon waning Aries. And another aspect to this week that's really potent and powerful is that we have the North Node at 18 degrees Cancer, and then Jupiter retrograded at 18 degrees Sagittarius. So they're resonating through the same degree frequency. There's 30 degree frequencies, and we have 360 degrees that make up the zodiac wheel, and each sign makes up 30 degrees of that sign, but 30 degree frequencies are the essences that activate through each sign. So degree frequencies have 12 expressions through each sign. And so we've got the 18 degrees Sagittarius and 18 degrees Cancer North Node, and that's in a quincunx. It's an 150 degree angle, which is really potent because they're those quincunx signs are very different from each other by fire, by element, by modality, and even by where they occupy the quadrants. And so there's something very important that each quincunx sign has to integrate with each other, because deeply what is inside of that quincunx is they help each other move in more optimal directions, because that's the nature of the quincunx. The quincunx itself is meant to operatively help you move in more solution-oriented, positive, optimal directions instead of getting there. It's like the quincunx is the answer to the square. Like the square is just going back and forth and back and forth in the boxing arena, right? I see a square as like a boxing arena, and you keep coming up against the same battle, and then the quincunx comes in and just sort of and changes everything. It's almost like adding this analogy is just popping up right now, so I've got some work in progress with that one, but it's like adding in a new solution to a third player that brings in new solutions. And I emphasize this right now because we're in a Jupiter Sag year, and it's squaring off with Neptune, and with this quincunx of the North Node to Jupiter, what I feel there's this real need to make the world our home. And for those of us who are willing to really heal that divide inside that separates us and isolates us in our insular worlds. And so with Jupiter coming into a quincunx to the North Node in Cancer, and the Cancer is very personal, subjective reality, it's really asking for us this year because it's making 3 quincunxes to it, to open up emotionally. Jupiter in Sagittarius wants to open us up philosophically to embracing a wider spectrum, universal philosophy, and actualizing that philosophy, living that philosophy. And so with Jupiter squaring in Neptune this year as well, that's also healing it, and really also healing through clearing the paradigms that serve to separate us emotionally and create those emotionally isolating experiences, and creating a society of people who isolate. And so really it's just speaking to a lot of emotional neglect, a lot of emotional isolation, and that's where Jupiter's really saying, it's like with squaring off with Neptune, and Neptune's trining the North Node, Jupiter's quincunxing the North Node. This is a prime year for a lot of healing and healing from an old view of separation, and healing your emotional body, and embracing a all-inclusive philosophy that also gets you out there. It gets you out there in the world, wanting to see new cultures, just in different ways. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to open up, getting out more in your community, embracing new ideologies that are all embracing, and clearing, again, very specifically, clearing, healing your personal emotionality. If you've been viewing the world as, you know, out there, and really coming into, it's also birthing you into the world in new and beautiful and magical ways, because your participation is absolutely being invited, and through your own need to be here fully as yourself. So this is a powerful week for that, and I feel that in preparation also for this total eclipse that's coming in next week. And I have tuned into the total eclipse. Please check it out in my descriptions below, and any other videos that I have down there. We also have this week on June 26th, on Wednesday, we have Mercury going into Leo. And so Mercury moving into the sign of Leo from Cancer, it's inside of its retrograde path. There really is this feeling this week of we're getting ready to go through this major clearing, like the things that are going to shift for us next month. And so that's what it really feels like in different ways. You know, there could be really big decisions, or self-unhooking, self-understanding, maybe even overcoming yourself in emotional ways, or, you know, stories you've been living out. And so those stories being lived out through habits and getting, you know, it's just sort of emotionally unhooking from addictions outside of you, and learning how to reconnect with yourself, and that being on an optimal level, an ideal level, I feel like, in terms of how these energies are moving through us and in those ways. And then on more you know, interpersonal ways, it could be showing up as, you know, just having these major conversations with people in your environment, you know, understanding, you know, understanding understanding yourself more on an emotional level. And I do personally feel like we're opening up more in pockets of this world. We're opening up more emotionally to each other. And so that's the way, as you're showing up more in your environment, opening up more emotionally to yourself. With this Mercury and moving into Leo, and in these particular degrees of Leo, the first few degrees in Leo before it goes retrograde on July 7th, it's really opening up our voice, another energy of our willpower, because Leo is about our domain, our creative domain. So finding the things that really light you up, and claiming those arenas for yourself, and coming to a new level for that within yourself, coming to a new level of confidence, speaking with confidence, moving more confidently in creative directions, even if it's like you're not even that good at it, just being more confident inwardly. That also helps because Leo does like to circle up with people, and so having more engaging, warming Leo's when it's in a balanced state, it's a very warm, emotionally warm, loving side. Because think of it, it's a Leo the lion, Leo the lioness, and they have their pride, and they have the tribe of people, and leaning in on each other. And then there's a lot of actually body contact in the sign of Leo. But Leo is a body sign. It likes body. It likes to touch. It likes contact, physical contact. So that could also mean just, you know, up leveling as well, just having more of getting more physical exercise, any things that are just really charging up the body system and enlivening, because Leo is also a vitality sign, you know, revitalizing you, choosing new things, choosing positive pathways that are really, you know, beneficial to you personally, and then they consequently end up being beneficial to the people around you. And so this is also prepping us for the Mercury retrograde that's happening from July 7th until July 31st. I have not made a video yet on the Mercury retrograde, but it's coming soon, this week. It's coming in this week. And so there's a real feeling of getting ready to go through something in two ways. We've got the new moon coming in, the total eclipse on July 2nd, and then Mercury's already on. It's already activating the degrees that it's going to go retrograde through, because it's going retrograde through the degrees of 5 Leo and 25 Cancer. And so Mercury's already in those degrees, kind of warming them up. And because of the nature of Leo and Cancer and what's happening in that particular 10-degree pathway between 5 Leo and 25 Cancer is edging on it's edging on just, again, clearing up some patterns of isolation and blockages of viewing the world through in an insular viewpoint, and then Leo really kind of warming the field, warming the communications. So that's what it feels like, these real possibilities, because of the way Cancer and Leo like to circle up and what they have to do with the tribe. There could be some really crucial conversations, understandings, and things that we're hearing also in the greater tribe of the world of politics, things that are coming out. Because just to plug this, it's really interesting that the United States chart is being directly affected by this Mercury retrograde. So I feel like we're going to see some really interesting things out in the world, or with this Mercury retrograde, that could be very groundbreaking, and things coming out from being hidden. Also, society just not putting up with things anymore, because the world's changing, and that's really what it is. Let me end here. If you're gonna tolerate, it's about what you're willing to tolerate with yourself personally, because your personal world creates your reality. And the more you understand and get, and really full body get emotionally, that your world, the world you are living, the things you are choosing, is you actively creating your world. You change society by your choices. And so I do think that because of this cardinal energy, cardinal keys on choice, those choices we make in the moment, emotionally, mentally, physically, actively. And so the more you fine tune your choices and get in synchronization with what your standards, and aligned with those standards, that, and in a non-judgmental way, and not in a non-critical way. This is really about unbinding yourself from negative self-talk, and to also understand that that's been culturally institutionalized, the negativity that has bred this really strong pattern in our culture. Inside of everyone is a negative self-talk that ends up being a negativity. That's negative self-talk turns into negativity towards each other, and just negative views of reality. So I really believe I know I'm on that edge right now with myself of unlocking all those places, and I do feel that that's something that's happening in the culture in general, especially the people I'm talking to, the real other people that are realizing things. And so this is truly the times we are in, and that is what astrology reveals to me and shows me, and are the times that we're in, and how things are really changing. And last thing, we are in a Saturn-Pluto year, and that is absolutely the number one aspect of Saturn and Pluto coming into exact conjunction on January 2020. That is reflecting that we're in societally, we're in a turning point year right now. And the last time Saturn and Pluto came into a conjunction in Capricorn was in the year 1518, and so that was the year that there was some major things that went down on this planet. And there's two things in particular. Martin Luther protested against the Roman Catholic Church and created the Protestant religion, and then the Spanish conquistadores were out pillaging and plundering and claiming and arrogantly taking Catholicism and Catholicism, I can't even say it. I'm so glad I can't even say that word anymore. Christianity, and arrogantly using that as in an egotistical way to rape and pillage and steal and do everything that at that time Europe was doing to other worlds. So I believe and see, and I know many of us do, that see that we are living in a times in which those things that happened in the past were not rectified, and I believe that that's part of how we're going to transform and change and come up with new solutions, that we have to rectify the past to restore ourselves, and however long it takes. But because we're in a final year, we're in the final year of the second decade. One of the reasons we're two things that are marking where we're at is Saturn and Pluto coming into a conjunction on the beginning of the third decade of the 21st century. And so there's a real feeling of an evolutionary swell, and very much the need to change, and an urgency on the planet. So there you go. This is this week of June 24th, 2019 until July 2nd, 2019. And any last things that I want to tell you? I know I've already said that a couple of times, but no, I pretty much got it. So there we go. So wishing you all much love. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll be putting up my Mercury retrograde video next. Thanks so much.